My name is Susan Fieber, and today is April 25th, 2018. I am interviewing Sally Krugel at the Max Fisher Federation Building in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Sally, do you give permission to the Leonard Simons Jewish Community Archives to publish, duplicate, or otherwise use this recording for educational purposes and for use as deemed appropriate by the archives?
Yes.
This interview is being recorded as part of the Women in Leadership Oral History Project. The Women's Philanthropy Department of the Jewish Federation has had several names throughout its history, including Women's Division and Women's Campaign and Education Department. For the purposes of this interview, the questions will refer to it by its current name, Women's Philanthropy, but you can use whichever name you wish to call it.
Okay.
All right. Please tell us when and where you were born.
Okay, I was born in Flint in 1943, and I grew up there, and then we moved to Bay City. So I graduated high school in Bay City.
What year did you move to Bay City?
I was 13, right after my Yad Ezra.
And did you have siblings?
Yes, there were 5 of us. There are now 3 of us.
And what did you? Where did you go? Did you go to college?
Yes, I went to U of M, and that's where I met Richard.
And what did you study while you were in college?
I majored in education, so I taught for a few years.
So when you were growing up in your family, what kind of Jewish practice did your family have?
Well, I can easily say that my family was on the orthodox end of the spectrum, which there was no Orthodox community in Flint, and certainly not in Bay City. So, we were Shomer Shabbat, and we, kept kosher and all that. So, but we belonged to a conservative synagogue.
And was your family involved in the Jewish community?
Yes. My mom was very involved. My dad, of course, was hardworking. She was Torah Fund chairman and stuff like that.
Can you explain to me what the Torah Fund is?
It was their effort to raise funds to send to JTS and things like that.
Through the synagogue?
Right.
Okay. And did you work as a teacher after you studied
I would just mention one more thing, which I think was very impactful, but I didn't find this out till later. In the 1956 war, Flint, of course, had a special campaign, as did every other community in the country, and my dad couldn't afford, to announce a gift or things like that, but he went to the bank and he took a loan in order to be able to donate to that campaign, and then he could pay it off on his own, at his own, pace. But that impressed me so much.
Did you know about that as a child?
No, I found out about it later. Yeah.
So I want to go back to when you went to college and you began your career. So you went to U of M and you studied education.
Yes.
And after you graduated, did you begin working as a teacher?
I did. I taught 2 years in Ann Arbor and 1 in Birmingham, and then started having a family.
You were married?
Yes.
And when did you begin working at Federation?
Okay. So when Noah was about 8, I decided I could go to work, and I guess there were no more teaching jobs at that time. So I went, I'd heard this thing called development. So you could that's a career path, Other women were doing that, and I thought that's something I might like to do. So I worked for the Science Center, and while I was there, I got recruited by Doug Ross to work on his political campaign. So instead of doing development, I was on political campaign professional work. I worked for Doug, I worked for Sandy, I worked for Carl.
Can you tell me who Sandy and Carl are?
Carl Levin, Sandy Levin. And they became a congressman and senator, and it was good work, but my husband said, these are very intense, and you're there all day and all night, and although I did go home early on Shabbat, they were all angry with that. But on Friday afternoon, but it was very intense, and he thought maybe get something that's a little more, more pace to it, even pace, so you're not in that mode of political campaigns. So then I decided to go back to development and get involved with fundraising.
With the Jewish community?
Yes.
Or fundraising somewhere else?
No. Well, first of all, I think also what was more affected me was that I was in the Wexner program. Are you familiar with that?
Can you tell me what the Wexner program is?
It's the Wexner Heritage Foundation by Les Wexner, and he decided that he was in a position to get involved nationally, and give a lot of money, but he said, I don't know anything about anything Jewish. So he decided he had to create, an education program so that people in leadership programs would be educated Jewishly, so they could make their decisions Jewishly. So we were the third cohort when he first started. This was years ago, as you can imagine, and it was a wonderful program. And I was in the first year. And when I decided to do this switch, my career, I don't know if I told you, I was working for Doug. He was in charge of the. He was the.
You're referring to Doug Ross?
Doug Ross. He then became something in the Michigan State government, where Commerce Department, and I was working for him in the Commerce Department. And I decided, I'm so impressed with Wexner, and I have to get my life together so I'm not torn in 100 directions, because I was always really volunteering a lot too. I said there was a post open here for Women's Department, and I said I'm going to grab it. Now, Wexner was not happy about this, because they had developed this program for lay leadership, and they almost made me quit. But then they thought twice, and they kept me on for the second year. And they now have a program also for professionals. Yeah.
So what were you involved with in the community before you went, besides professionally, what were you involved as a lay leader in the Jewish community?
Well, I did most of my volunteering for Federation, actually, at that time. I was a Young Leadership Award winner, the Sylvia Simon Greenberg Award, and I was, head of the the briefing project at Women's Department. I was, I think I was also a co-chair of the Lion of Judah, things like that.
What's the briefing part?
That's the where they brief the workers, so they make the case for the campaign that year, and they educate all the solicitors. Those are the two things I can remember the most.
So when you first came to work at Federation, you went straight into Women's Department as the director?
Yep. Well, Michelle Passon was the former director, and I said, I can do that. She can do that. I can do that.
And did you have a staff?
Well, first of all, I have to explain to you. It is don't think of it like it is right here, okay? Because this was 1988, I think, to 94, 96, and we were
96? 12 years?
Maybe it's 9 or it's
8 years.
8 years, I think. Although I tried to check with my presidents, and maybe Penny only did a year with me, because I know Linda Klein was also one of the presidents. But anyway, okay. Think downtown. Have either of you been downtown to the old Federation building? Okay, it is a glorious, wonderful building with lots of history behind it, and it had this beautiful banister inside, and also downtown was what JCRC formerly was, the Relations Council thing. They were downstairs and we were upstairs, and Michael Burke was my supervisor, and I had Hilda Bornstein as my staff person, from Bornstein's, Judaica. And I had, and then later on I had a woman named Sue Ziegler, and we still are friends till today. I had to, I didn't think about any of this when I took the job. But I would drive downtown, and the lodge was wonderful because there were no semis on the lodge. It's a commuter expressway, so I loved it, and it was quick. But I remember once leaving papers in my convertible, and they flew all over the expressway. And I remember once leaving something down. They had a parking lot, but it was actually, locked. You had to have a code to get in out of the parking lot. So I left my briefcase there, and I had to call someone at Federation to bring it uptown here to me. But just so you know, the meetings weren't down there. The Board of Governors met down there, but the meetings were all at United Hebrew School. What was United Hebrew School in that day?
So just to paint the picture, basically the Federation building was downtown.
Yes.
But the people lived in the suburbs.
Oh, yes, of course.
And the meetings didn't happen
down
in
here.
The Butzel building. They were all in the suburbs at the United Hebrew Schools.
The Board of Governors met down there. The people on the Board of Governors, which was mostly men at the time, they would come downtown for their meeting. But there were no other lay meetings downtown. But one other thing I remember too, I would have to pass the Salvation Army on the way home, and the lines were long at the Salvation Army because they gave out food and everything, and I just thought, I wish everybody else could see this, So I liked that exposure to downtown.
Was that your first time working in the city?
No, when I worked for the Commerce Department, I worked downtown, but just a little in the Howard Building.
And so your position as women's, I'm going to go back to the position at Federations, your position as the director of women's department, what were your job duties?
All right. I don't think I had another staff person downtown. I pretty much did everything. But we had a phone a gift at United Hebrew Schools, which was all women, and the room was packed, and everybody, people who had nothing to do with Federation or weren't involved any other way, just loved to come and help make phone calls. So that was a huge, big event. Then we had, of course, we had the Lion of Judah meeting. I handled the top meetings. Later on, as I got uptown here and had a staff person, we had, they would handle the lower meetings. And we had briefing meetings. We had board meetings. We had executive committee meetings. We had, it wasn't as big a department then.
The women's department.
Right. In terms of all the work that we did. But.
And when did you leave the Butzel building?
Okay. We were there 2 years, and then we moved uptown here.
And what was it like to work in the Butzel building? Were you isolated in women's department? Were you integrated with the rest of Federation? Tell us a little bit about what it was
we
like
were
working
integrated. We were just like another room down the hall. I know in terms of what else went on down there, I remember that this was the year that there was a March on Washington. Do you remember that at all?
For Soviet Jewry?
Yes, right. And so I came to find out that JCRC or whatever they were called then was doing that, and I said, of course, Richard, we have to go. And Noah was like a senior, so we pulled him along, our son Noah, and it was it was a phenomenal event, and he ended up writing a paper that won an award, and he got to go to Lansing and speak about it. So, you just get exposed to a lot of other things. Also, Charlotte Dubin, and I don't know if you have her on your list to talk to. Oh, she's such a font of information. She was like the whole marketing department. She wrote everybody's speeches and everything. Well, I was there late one night, and she and I are the only people there, and I had to rush to get something to her that she could get into the paper or something. I don't remember what it was. And I come upon her, and she's looking at her, I don't know if it was a satellite radio, or I know there was a screen there, I can't even remember. And I said, Charlotte, what are you watching? Well, she was watching Operation Moses.
When they brought the Ethiopian Jews to Israel?
Yes.
That was May of 1988, maybe?
Let me see if it's Moses or what was the other
Solomon.
Which was first? Moses was first. So it must have been Solomon. Operation Solomon in 88 or 89. To see those people coming out and getting on the planes, I mean, this was...
So you were at work when this happened?
Yes, but she and I were the only two people here, and it was at night, So I thought, oh, I wish everybody could see this. It was just a life-altering event. Yeah.
Can we pause it for a second? Okay, so who was president of Women's Philanthropy when you began?
Can I just go back to a question you haven't
Yes.
asked? Okay. I'd like to talk a minute or so about the ambiance or the attitudes that were present in those days. Okay.
When you were at the Butzel building?
Before I took my job, even. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I did not realize this because I would never be like this, But there was a real we-they attitude. The lay leadership did not want to give the professional leadership, perhaps. They just wanted to be they wanted to set all the agenda, which of course they should, But staff people can impact that too, and that's what I felt. But it was a real we-they attitude, so much so that one of the top leaders at that time asked me out for a cup of coffee and talked to me and said, "Sally, don't do this. You're a lay leader and you have a big future in Federation. And, I'm just telling you that you should not take this post." And I said, "Well, thanks. But I think I'm going to take it, and maybe I can come back to doing other." I know my voice is getting lower.
Do you think that in any way you helped to change the relationship between lay leadership and staff because you decided to cross that bridge?
Well, I'd like to think that, but I don't know that there's been anybody else like me that's really gone from being as involved in lay leadership responsibilities to going on to this professionally. Although I have mentored, when you talk about mentoring, I don't know that I've mentored so many women's department people, but I know I've mentored a lot of young women who wanted to go back to work and wanted to work in the Jewish community, and they would come and sit down with me, and I would give them a lot of advice. So I have mentored other Jewish women to become involved professionally, but not here at Federation. They would take other posts.
That's really nice. So who was the president when you started at Women's Philanthropy? Do you remember, or Women's?
Yes, Sharon Hart was my first president for just a year.
And what was your relationship with her?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, Sharon and I were both in Wexner. So it was fine.
And what kinds of things did you do for her, or she for you?
Okay. Well, we didn't change too much for that second year. No new projects. Perhaps things pretty much went on schedule. I have to admit, I was not so good with detail. So I think all my lay leadership might have been a little frustrated with me for this. But they got over it, and I improved, and so things improved. Yeah.
And did the transition of the presidents every 2 years affect you, or how did it affect you?
Oh yes, but it only was business as usual. It wasn't like anything was going to change radically, and it's really important to do this. I mean, you have to. I mean, that's the only thing that really brings along the new generation. This kind of schedule that we have. That.
How did you see the leadership mentoring or developing new leadership?
Well, okay. We're the women's. I give the women so much credit. Most of these people had a lot of time, and women tend to be, they're just, I think, so much more creative. And if they have the time and the energy and they devote it to women's department, they can make changes. They can, everything we did the next time around, we improved like 100%, and we changed, and they're really, really, really wonderful to work with, and I salute them. And we've, it hasn't been a problem in changing, for 2 years.
Wasn't a problem for you?
No, not at all.
And what was your feeling?
And so the other thing I was going to mention was, in those days we had this thing called All-Star Draft. All-Star Draft was when the leadership of the committees and the staff people, which was just me and my associate by the time I had one or two, would go over all the committees and everyone on the committees. We were very careful, no lashon hara or anything like that, but just speak of their skills. Who do you see as becoming the next committee chairperson? And then so we moved people around in committees, and then the chairs of committees would call and invite their people to be on the committee. But we were sure that nobody ever fell through the cracks. We didn't want to lose even one volunteer, and we wanted to give everybody an opportunity, to be in a spot that they would find rewarding to them.
So when you refer to these committees, what committees did you have at the time?
Wow,
if you can remember some of them.
Well, we had education committees. That's what we had. We had two arms. We had campaign and we had education. And education would be everything like, going to visit an agency, to doing briefing, to having like education events where you'd have speakers come and they'd learn more about either the agency people came to us or we went to the agencies. But we live in a wonderful Jewish community, and there are our reputation nationwide is wonderful. So the fact that we have these stars for agencies, just helps us. Of course we raise the money for them too, but it really, really makes a wonderful case to get donors to give.
And how did you think that women's philanthropy fit into the Federation as a whole? Like, did you feel...
Okay, that's a good question. Did I cut you off?
No.
All right, so I didn't notice this downtown so much, but when we moved uptown, somehow we managed to get the lower space here. It's changed a lot, so much you can't even imagine. But we were the only people downstairs here, and everybody else was upstairs. So we had our own little enclave, and I think there was a lot of ill will, perhaps, that we had our own, department. We had our own little space, and I think everybody, well, at least the top leadership in professionally, just really felt we should all be part of the whole. But we liked being our own, so that didn't bother us at all.
So you were satisfied being separated, but you thought maybe the rest of the Federation was not happy with that.
And I can actually say that at one point I was at just a staff experiential thing, and I overheard the director at the time say, we're going to get rid of women's department and get them into the whole. And I was like shocked, and I told that to my leadership, and boy, they were not going to see any of that happen. And two of my presidents and the vice president, they went and sat down and said, this isn't going to happen, so don't try.
So why do you think it's important to have a women's department separate from the General Federation?
Well, when we got started, it always was that women, first of all, it's plus dollars. If you can develop a cadre of women that will give, in addition to their husbands, then it's all plus dollars. So how can they? And men's gifts wouldn't go down. So how can they be upset with that? Secondly, women educate their husbands and their children, okay, about the importance of all of this, and their children see what's going on and their mother's involved in these kinds of things. So that's a certain kind of mentoring for kids. So when we got over like $1 million campaign,
Do you remember what year that was?
No, I don't.
Do you remember who the president was?
No, I don't know that either.
Okay.
But, well, we can look into it. And it only just kept going up from there, no one could, fight that. It was really plus. And of course, then we developed a B&P division. And so those women also.
What's B&P?
Business and Professional.
Women.
We don't have that now, but we did then.
Now we have the women's, working women's department.
Oh, okay.
Women's Philanthropy has Jewish Working Women's Networking Group.
Right.
So
okay.
It's not its own division, but it does.
But do they raise dollars? Or do we put that all together?
We put it all together.
Campaign.
Yeah. In campaign. It's all more educational to engage. So before we get into campaign, what did you have a particular focus besides fundraising when you were president or director of women's department, or was your ultimate goal always fundraising? Every I don't want to say generation, but as new people come and go, they tend to focus on different parts of the community. Some on education, some are more engagement, some more on fundraising, all on fundraising, obviously. Did you have anything in particular that you noticed, or through your presidents, did that change at all, or was it really focused?
Well, first of all, what I would say is that me personally, I believe soliciting is the most important thing. I think it's, in my mind, it's a double mitzvah. Because you get the so-called credit for raising money, and then you've gotten someone else to give money, so they get the mitzvah. So I've just always been inspired to make solicitation the most important thing, and the campaign part. And I guess I'd venture to say that a lot of the education pieces went to my other staff people. Yeah.
Okay. And did you face any other particular challenges when you were at I don't know if we went over this, but any particular challenge that you can recall while you were director?
No.
And what were you most proud of?
Okay. We had some projects which were really wonderful. I think I wrote about them. I wanted to make one more thing. I don't know if you're going to ask this, so I should probably wait, but before, just so I don't miss it. When we talked about the attitudes at the time, okay, I know it's, Federation really didn't have a kashrut policy. So events were not kosher. Things in people's homes may not always have been fish, and so that was what it was in those days. And I remember I had an executive committee at one time, and we discussed it, and we wanted to kind of set a policy that things should be dairy, or if kosher, if possible, or whatever. And we brought it up, and one woman said to me, "Not over my dead body." So that was the end of that. But so I would say that I'm sure you've seen that that's no longer the case, and we have a kashrut. We do our best to make sure things are kosher. So that's another huge, big change for Federation.
Just the Jewish life at Federation has changed.
Yes, I think it has a lot to do with the leadership that have come in. Yeah.
And were there any particular people that you worked with that impacted you more than others, or mentored you?
Well, I have to say I worked with the best. Okay, I think. I mean, if you have Sharon and My other ones were Doreen and Diane Klein and Penny Blumenstein.
Those were your presidents?
Yeah. Wasn't I lucky?
Yeah.
And I even remember, and then of course the one year with Linda Klein, I even remember Beverly Liss. I mean, she started to become involved when I was the director.
And now she's president. Of Federation.
Yes. Right. So I guess I would say my presidents were my mentors. Yeah.
And the events, you're about to go into the events that you thought were most meaningful.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, I just wanted to mention one other thing. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I had to cover. We would tend to work late, and I remember one night I was, you may want to cut this actually. One night I was staying here, and I guess I ran the telethon, and I wasn't paying attention. I went back up to my office, and I was cleaning things up, and I came back down, and there was this woman here. And I wasn't very comfortable with that, and it was dark, and I said, you should be going now, but then I noticed she didn't leave. I watched her go out and sit in the car, and she didn't leave. And mine was the only other car in the
lot.
In the lot, and I don't know. I think she was a stalker, and I was afraid to go home because then she would know where my home address was. So I called Gelly, and he said call the police. They had someone come home and follow you home, and they did that, and then I never saw her again. But I only say that because in those days we really didn't have security. I mean, no, that would not happen today. I mean, there's someone at the front, and you have to buzz to get in, and of course that could still happen, but still there's always security here. And I don't know if it's because, God forbid, there's threat of violence, but also just because that's the lifestyle today. So, but okay, that's the only other one.
Well, let's stay on this for a second, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen so much change over the years. You've seen a change in the Jewish life. You've seen change in security. You've seen how society around us has changed and how we reflected it.
Mm-hmm.
Internally, do you feel that solicitation has changed also? How do you feel that anything that we have done as a Jewish community has changed? You talked about the phone solicitation and getting together with women to make calls.
Right.
And we do still do that. What do you see as something?
Well, one thing that I've seen more lately that I really think is very effective is that we now use every, even almost every meeting we have, you can sit down and make a few phone calls. We don't lose any opportunity, but certainly at board meetings. And then we also try to send out thank you notes. And I think this is very, very, very effective. I mean, to talk to someone on the phone and then just drop a little note in the mail, I think just underscores how women do things and how we have all those extra touches that really make a person feel good about their support.
When you were working in your, did they do face-to-face solicitation, or was it mostly just telephone?
It's good you brought that. We always wanted face-to-face solicitation. That was, and there's no doubt about that. It's really the most effective way. But honestly, it does not happen, and it didn't happen so much. I think the degree to which men are much more businesslike, okay? I mean, if you work in a hospital, you can take cards of every doctor that's in the hospital, and you see them, and you say, okay, Joe, what's your pledge this year? And you might try to get it go up a little, but that was the degree to which it was face-to-face. I don't even know if they said, well, this is why you should do a little more, that type of thing. But I don't think for the women, I think maybe the top leadership would do some assignments that they really tried to sit down with people. But it didn't really happen so much. So the next thing is, telethons. And, it is a huge challenge. I mean, we do cell phone telethons now, and that helps a little bit. I take slips home with me of people that I left message with, and I say, just call me back on my cell phone, and sometimes they've called me back. And then I call the office and give those pledges in. But we've got to find another way to be more effective, because people don't pick up their phones these days. And if they have the Federation number, they're surely not going to pick up. So that's why we try to use cell phones. But then they see, oh, I don't know this person, I'm not going to answer. So it's a challenge.
It's always been a challenge, correct?
Yes, but I think for telethons now it's even more a challenge because people don't answer.
And, okay. So at this point, I think we should go back to your accomplishments, because we keep missing it. A couple things that you feel were your most significant accomplishments when you were
All right. Well,
working.
The first thing was like reaching 1 million. The second thing was a project that we did with with NCJW, and Women's Department had never partnered with anybody else, but it was Adopt a Family, and it was when the Russians came over from the former Soviet Union, and everybody adopted a family, and it was a phenomenal program. The degree to which we integrated these Russian families into our community is probably...
do you remember what year that was?
No, I don't, but I don't remember.
But it was in the 90s.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. So that was a really huge project.
Was that the first time that you remember Women's Division collaborating with another agency?
Yes, and I mean, we never did it after that either, I don't think. We might do family service a little bit, but I don't know that we've done that, have we?
Well, do you see that now we do it all the time?
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yeah, so there has been a lot of change that way.
Okay. Well, that was the very first time. And it was, you had to be very delicate, because the NCJW does things their way and we do things our way, but we made it happen, and it worked. And typically we came out with a whole folder of what kinds of things you could do and how you do it, and we're very professional about what we do.
You had Adopt a Family, you raised $1 million.
Yeah, okay. Then I think we started the Women's Seder. It was a project which really went for a very, very long time. We would decorate the tables, and we'd do certain centerpieces, and we'd do lots of educational pieces in that Seder. And, I guess I have to say the whole thing about education is that the more you enrich lay leadership about their, doing things Jewishly, and the more that the lay leadership, are educated about everything Jewish, they really are better solicitors. I mean, the case for tzedakah and all of that just comes through. Yeah. Oh, all right. Oh, penny harvest. Did I mention that? No.
We don't do penny harvest anymore. Can you tell us what penny harvest is?
Okay. So someone came to us with this idea that she'd seen operating somewhere else, where kids just get all the pennies that they can, and you can laugh at it, but it really adds up. And of course, if we get all our children and to bring all their pennies in, I mean, the first year we raised $4,000, and that was really, really effective. And then it just got bigger. So it was very exciting, and it was a wonderful project. But it also gave us an opportunity, of course, because we came up with even another layer, which was to develop a committee from these young people and educate them about what it is to allocate the money that they raise. And so we then had, them giving allocations to agencies, and they got a huge education. I think they did it in their bar and bat mitzvah years, but they got a huge education about...
Were these people who were lay people involved with Federation, or were they the parents of the children who were donating the pennies?
On the committee?
Yeah.
It was the kids.
Oh, the kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The kids learned about allocations?
Yes. Yep. And so they learned about our agencies, and they learned how we operate.
And how did you find these kids? Were these partnerships with synagogues?
I'm not really sure. I can't remember.
And then also you began the Business and Women's Professional Group?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, the BMP group was an effort to, none of these women could come to our campaign meetings during the day or whatever, and they were working women, and we really felt that was an area that we could begin to solicit, significant gifts from and everything, and also to educate them too. But I don't know how they did it. I mean, here these are working women. They have kids. They have, home life. They have their professions, and for them to take time out to do things and be, with Federation was a huge stretch for them. So I give them credit for whatever they did. We would have, campaign meetings and briefing meetings and education meetings and some networking meetings and things like that. And it went on fairly strong for a few years, but I think it was too hard over the years for them to continue to devote that extra time. So now we have a networking piece, but we do certainly solicit people, women, either way, the women who work at home and the women who work out of the home.
When you worked at Federation, did they still have the Detroit Service Group, which was primarily a men's group at the time, or was that finished?
Well, that was just like all the other groups. I mean, they'd have an insurance group, and they'd have a doctors group. I mean, the way Federation was organized in those days was by profession, and the service group was everybody else that didn't fall into like a professional group, and that's how they solicited them. That's how they ran their campaigns, and that's how they were solicited by other people in their groups and things like that. And that was effective. But like I say, it was most effective when you were in a group where you saw people in a natural setting, and could solicit them that way. Otherwise, it was probably mostly phone calls. But then we changed how we operated. Federation did, and they just decided to make it, a whole campaign, and then they had maybe 2 divisions, and that's how they ran the campaign.
And do you think women's philanthropy has endured for any particular reason?
Yes, we're not giving up. We're not giving it up. I think we're recognized for all the good work that we do, and all the benefit in building community, and I love now the programs that we have with, solicitation missions, and how effective we are with that, and bus trips throughout the community to show the agencies. And I think we're really, I think we're recognized for doing a very effective and successful work.
So when you transitioned from being a professional to being a lay leader again?
Oh, I have done that for a while.
Yeah, how did that go? How was that for you?
It was a natural, really. I went right back to being a big volunteer. I mostly give all my time to soliciting. I do, telethons and taking cards and all of that, because it's a passion for me. There was one thing I wanted to say. Oh, you all right? You didn't even ask that question. Okay, all right.
Which question? Go ahead.
The one about speakers that I had. One was Deborah Lipstadt.
She was probably amazing.
Yeah, she was amazing. And I remember a question someone asked her before in the question and answer period, and what it was she said, the person said, I'm a little, concerned because bar and bat mitzvahs now are like over the top. If you have a lot of money, you just throw it all into just having a huge big bar mitzvah and all with all the fixings. And Deborah said, after all my work with the Shoah, I have to say that anyone who wants to celebrate their simcha as lavish as they want, I say, go for it. But she said, you should also be almost as generous, or if not as generous, in your tzedakah. So she says, that's what I would say to your answer. And the other person was a woman, I can't even remember her name now, but she was very, very, very dynamic. And her whole pitch was the Jewish community has to be making relationships with other ethnic groups. whether it's the Chaldeans or the Hispanics or the Afro-Americans or whatever, because she says we need them as friends for us and for Israel. And, I think that's what we're facing today with this intersectionality. I mean, the people that are, that are threatening to us, and I'm not going to name all those groups, they're all combining forces. They don't care. They're just going to all do it as one big group and be more impactful, and it's very threatening for us. So she had it right all the way back then.
And so you're familiar with the younger generation, and you see how they're connected or not connected to the Jewish community. How do you think that they can be inspired if they're not inspired in a Jewish way about tzedakah? How do you think they can be inspired to be the future leadership of our community, for the women in particular?
Okay, because I was going to say the millennial division, Next Gen does a wonderful job.
Right, they
and
do.
It's true that women come up through there and just step naturally into, into women's, into work in women's philanthropy.
So you think it's working?
Oh, I think that part of it is working. I just think, I just think Detroit faces the fact that, there's a huge number. I mean, we get all of our money from what? 9% or 10% of the community, and there's a lot of people out there, many of whom I think, of course, are older people, but many that are just not in the core, and we have to find a way. I don't have any answer for that. I mean, okay, I'll say this is what I say every time I see that we're not being as effective as we can. I just say, God forbid there should be a tragedy or something terrible going on in the Jewish world. I think you would see everybody come out. I mean, I just know. And I also know that because I know we've been involved in taking the miracle missions, that's community-wide. That's not, campaign missions. These people are really, they love Israel, and they support Israel, and they go on these missions, these mega missions, and they're out there, but you don't see them as becoming involved. But I mean, unfortunately, I think that's what would happen. Their names are in the system, and we do call them, but I don't know what percentage to give. But I think they would come out, but God forbid, would have to be something pretty. I don't know. I don't even want to say it.
Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to add? I know that we talked about a lot of things, and it's hard to talk about everything.
Okay. I did have another career with Federation. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know that you want this in here, but I did. I was called 10 years later to be the staff person for the 2004 mega mission. And so
tell us about that.
Mark Davidoff gave me a call. I got in my car one day and he said, "How would you like to do this?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'd love to do this." So it was interesting. I was the staff person.
Is this the first mission, the first mega mission?
No, this is the last. This is 2004. Okay. So that's already 13 years ago or 14 years ago. I was the staff. Peter Alter was Larry Jacker was the president. Peter Alter was the co-chair. Richard Krugel and Peter Alter were the co-chairs.
Convenient.
So yeah, and I loved that too. And it was good to be back in the building, and it's so wonderful here now. I mean, you have all these departments. I mean, you have an Israel and Overseas, which we didn't have before, and you have. It's just a wonderful, wonderful federation.
Thank you so much.
Okay.